Who's excited about how cold it is?
I hate it.
Freaking hate it.
I usually don't mind it, but since I got COVID in December, for some reason now it does bother me. You know, never really minded COVID.
Turned on my heater this morning. Didn't work. Not happy.
It didn't work.
Didn't work.
Oh, that's what
Well, you know, it was 28 degrees in Santa Clarita last night, right? So it probably frosted at 5.
Well, no, I've been having issues, and then like I had Tracy call the our heater guy. Oh, out of town until Monday. It's all right, you
You
know.
have a fireplace?
You know, I don't know if our fireplace has ever been used. We have a fire pit in the backyard, which I tried to start a fire after it rained and the logs were all wet. Break up some chairs and start a fire. in the living room. Morning, sir. Morning, good morning.
Is it okay when I'm sitting here?
Absolutely. You can sit up here if you want to.
Well, when I was in the high school, I was always on the.
Always in the front. Was that because you were an astute student, or were you always in trouble?
Because both.
Oh, okay, good answer. Good answer. Okay.
You've seen my story
I
again.
saw your story, yeah.
Not just restaurant, read the books.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like when I tell people to do things and they do them. It's very rare. Very rare. How many more minutes do you have? So another 5 minutes. All right. We have 4 people here. I wonder if I need to go get more, but I think I need to get more books. More books.
I can go around. I emailed them, so they said it, but.
Welcome to our world.
So I found, yes, he said, no, that's what we wants, and we need to stay, not into the.
Yeah, I was gonna put Rockshire on my.
Yeah. You know, but we're gonna force to see the of them.
Yeah.
But that's on you. Yeah.
But you don't walk in long. Did you can I find the bank?
Yeah.
I don't think that, right? That's what we do. On this story.
Oh, yes, on your email, yes, yeah. But if I can, no, I can count that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, of course.
I would be.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Rosania. When does he not look elegant will be the statement. He always looks elegant. Yeah, I gotta put on a show for you. Oh, look at you, man.
Oh, I'm not counting you.
Okay, it's better not.
No. You never count on you.
Their content path.
Thanks.
Is. Other than.
As soon as it's 11, you can start the video.
So that's when it's back to back. I don't know about this. But then you have to have your own problems. Yes, I would like to- what is the- I know it's so much. That's not gonna be-
Yep.
I'm Steve Brian, welcome back to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today we've got another extraordinary book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Gary started Keller Williams, which is now the largest real estate company in the world. And this book is extraordinary. We have Philosopher's Notes, a bunch of big ideas. We decided to cover my 5 favorite ones now, so let's jump straight in. First big idea, dominoes. Dominoes. Are you familiar with the physics of dominoes? It's amazingly cool. Here's how it goes. So, domino can knock over another domino that's 50% larger than it. Domino can knock over another domino that's 50% larger than it. Now, what happens when you line up those dominoes is you don't just have linear growth, you have geometric growth, and it grows quickly. So, dominoes, not quite 50%, but you get the idea. You can keep on doing that. It's already going off the screen, right? Now, if you start with a 2-inch domino, 2 inches, right? Just a little domino. That domino can knock over another domino that's 3 inches tall, right? You extend that out by 10, and what do you have? 10, you got an NFL quarterback. Peyton Manning is about 10 dominoes high in this sequence. Boom, 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 50% bigger, right? Then you go out 23, what do you have? You have the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower at 23, that's pretty amazing. Keep on going out to 30 something, I don't know, 31 or so, and you have the Himalayas. You go out 50 plus, and you have the moon. Geometric progression of dominoes. It's an amazing thing. Starting out really, really small, 50% bigger, that grows quickly, 10, 23, 31, 50 plus, you're getting yourself to the moon. Now, the key is you need to identify your most important thing and then line them up. Line them up and have this huge, extraordinary, geometric progressive force behind you. That's the quick look at dominoes. Dominoes. Big idea number 1. Big idea number 2 is success lists. Success lists. What do you have? Do you have a to-do list? We just have a ton of stuff. I gotta do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I'm gonna put in a lot of time, a lot of hours, and I'm gonna just go nail it. Check them off, throw it in the traffic center. Maybe you prioritize them a little bit, but that's number 1, that's number 2, okay, whatever. To this long to-do list. Gary says we need to swap out our to-do lists for success lists. Get clear on what success is. What are your dominoes that you need to knock over? Quit trying to do everything. You don't want to have a long to-do list. You want a success list. Get clear on what your keys to success are and do that. Get rid of your to-do list. That's the second big idea. The third big idea is extreme 80-20 or extreme Pareto law. Have you heard of Vilfredo Pareto? Vilfredo Pareto, 19th century Italian economist, who discovered that 20% of the Italian population back in the day owned 80% of the land. 80-20 Pareto principle. And since then, we've discovered that a ton of things fall into the Pareto principle. 20% of beer drinkers drink 80% of beer, for example. We can go on, but we won't. 80-20, it exists everywhere, right? What is cool about what Gary does, he said, look, okay, so the Pareto principle is awesome, 80-20, but we want to go extreme. We want to take this 80-20, we want to take that 20, and we want to 80-20 that. All right, and then we want to take this 20, and we want to 80-20 that. What happens when you do that? Well, you do that enough times, and you arrive at your one thing, the most important thing that you could do. So the whole idea of the 80-20 principle is you don't want the vital few to be drowned out by the trivial many of the to-do list or anything else in your life. You want to identify the most important, 80-20. But take it to the extreme and keep on 80-20 in your 80-20s, and you arrive at the one thing. It's a really cool idea. So obviously the book is all about helping us focus on that which is most important, arriving at our one thing. That's extreme Pareto or extreme 80-20. Now the next big idea is one of my favorites in any book I've read, setting goals to now. He calls it setting goals to now. Here's how it works. So basic idea here is you create a someday you are going to do this one thing. Your big one thing goal is what? Identify that. That's your someday goal. Then what you want to do is you want to connect your 5-year goal to that someday goal. Your one thing 5-year goal that supports your someday goal. Okay, cool, we got that. Then what's your 1-year goal that supports your 5-year goal that supports your someday goal? What's that? Identify that 1-year goal. Then identify your 1-month goal that supports the 1 year, that supports the 5-year, that supports the someday one thing goal. What is it? What do you do this year that supports your this month that supports your 1 year, that supports your 5-year, that supports your someday? Identify that. Keep on going, you can guess what's next. 1 week. What are you gonna do this week that supports everything that comes after it? And then what are you gonna do today that supports the week, that supports the month, that supports the year, that supports the 5 years, that supports your someday goal? And then the kicker, what are you gonna do right now that supports today's goal, that supports the week, the month, the year, the 5-year, the someday? That's awesome. Goal setting to now. What's the one thing you could do that would ripple off what? Dominoes. That will knock over those dominoes such that your moonshot, your huge long-term someday lifetime goal is a natural byproduct of you rocking all of these. That's goal setting to right now, all about the one thing. This is echoed by scientific research. Jonathan Haidt in the happiness hypothesis tells us that you want to have vertical coherence of your goals. Happy people have vertical coherence in their goals. They're not doing something today and then hoping to eventually come to what they want, right? Kind of two-stepping in. That's not what we want to do. We want to get clear on our long-term goals and then line everything up to make sure we're in integrity. Vertical coherence, big idea. So that's the 4th big idea. Here we've got one more, time blocking. Time blocking, really cool idea. He says this is the greatest productivity power tool that you can imagine. Power tool for productivity, the greatest one, right? Time blocking. The idea here is that you identify your most important thing you're going to off the time to do it, where there's absolutely no distraction. There's no email, there's no texting, there's no phone calls, there's no interruptions, nothing. But the one thing that you're determined you're gonna block off time for, and you go get your calendar out and you block off that time. He talks about a great blog online, by the guy who started the Y Combinator, called Maker versus Manager Schedule, which is great. I'll put a link into that. Maker versus Manager Schedule. So a manager is constantly reacting to everything all day long, but a maker needs blocks of time to create. You can't do anything meaningful if you're constantly being paper cutted by other things coming into your consciousness. You need the space. 4 hours if you can create it, half a day, a full day, whatever you can create so that you can create. Block your time. So there you go. That's a super quick look at the one thing, or at least 5 of my favorite big ideas. This book is really, really, really good. Highly recommend it. We've got more in the Philosopher's Note. Dominoes are powerful. Geometric progression, 50% bigger. We get to an NFL quarterback at 10 dominoes. We get to the Eiffel Tower at 23. Somewhere around 30-ish, we get to the Himalayas, over 50, and we're approaching the moon. What? It's crazy. So line them up, knock them down, extreme Pareto style, 80-20, your 80-20s, and 80-20 that, till you arrive at your one thing. Very cool concept. Goals to now. Someday, still one thing you want to do someday. Think about that. What's the one thing you want to do someday? That's a big question. Okay. What are you going to do in 5 years? What's the one thing you could do in 5 years to best support that? 1 year, step it back. This month, it's all coherent. 1 week, today. And then right now, you have clarity. Well, this is the one thing I can do that sets those dominoes off. Goals to now, time blocking, you need to do it if you want to create something meaningful. There you go. Hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have another awesome day. See you.
Cool. All right, has anybody read the book? The one thing.
This is Brian. I am sitting here.
Anybody read the book? Who would like the book? Anybody can have a book. Get gifts. If you're in person, you get gifts.
Thank you.
There you go, there you go, there you go. No book for you. Just kidding. Just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. This is a very good book. It's not a super thick book. It's not a really difficult read. It's a very easy read. There's a couple of books. This was number 2 on my list of books to read this year. So that's why I'm giving it to everybody. I really recommend you read this, but we're gonna go over this because in the system that we've been talking about, we have the online foundation, we have the database foundation that we talked about, which is step 1. You have to have that in place. Now, as we start going through this and I start talking more about this and you start trying to set things up, you're going to run into a roadblock, you're gonna stub your toe, there's gonna be something, nothing is gonna be smooth and easy. And when you run into a roadblock, come to me. Come to me, ask a question in class, come to the training. You might hear something that will help you get past this. The second step seems like it should be the first step, but it's not. It's the second step. That's lead generation. That's what this book is about. There's a focusing question in the book that he did not mention in this video. Can we get out of the video? The focusing question is, what is the one thing that you could do that by doing makes everything else easy or irrelevant? So when he's talking about the someday goal, the thing that you want to do someday, your big goal, like your end game of everything that you want in your life right here, what can you do today that will get you to that? And when it comes to real estate in your business, that one thing is lead generation. Because lead generation will get you to whatever your next step is in your business. If you're a new agent and you haven't sold a house, that would be your first client. You are going after your first client. A lot of what I see in real estate right now is that, you know, I talk to you about how everybody knows 300 people. And what I do is I have this conversation, everybody has this 300 name in their head and they're gonna go after all of these people all at one time and they're gonna email them, they're gonna Facebook, and they're gonna do. It's not about the 300, it's about the one person. You need one client before you can get to your next client, before you can get to 10, before you can get to 20. You have to get one client first. And how are you going to do that? What is the best, most efficient and fastest way to get to your next client, your first client or your next client? It's like Shannon's done hundreds of transactions in her lifetime. Some of us are brand new, just got our license, and we've barely done one. So she has a different system than everybody else, but her number one thing is still lead generation. It's just at a different level because she probably has a lot of her foundation already set up to where a lot of us are still trying to put together our foundation. Does that make sense? So the someday goal today is the lead generation actions that you take. The time blocking is something that I find is probably the Achilles heel for a lot of agents because it's really hard to put together time to just do something where you're not going to get an immediate result. I was literally just having a conversation with an agent today who's been in the business 20 years, same as me. His business is not doing well. And he's a super smart guy. He's super talented. He's done a lot of business in his past, but right now he's struggling. And it comes down to one thing, and that's the focus around time blocking. And I will tell you this, Tracy is really good at this. Like she will time block 3 to 4 hours a day every morning, and she will do all the things that she needs to do, calling one person at a time, calling people, following up with people, returning emails, returning text messages, talking to people. And then like by noon, like most of her stuff is done. And if you look at the energy clock in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and then you read this book, you'll realize that your business should almost be done by 12 or 1 o'clock. And then you should just be kind of playing catch-all with anything else you have going on. But the main core of your business should be done by noon or 1 o'clock. If you can give me 3 to 4 hours of lead generation every day consistently, there's almost no goal that you can't hit. But you have to be consistent with it. That's the key. So you have to focus. I, on a daily basis, write down my goals. I write down my someday goals. I write down my midday, my midlife goals, and then I write down my goals that I want right now that I'm working toward. And then what I do is I write down the wins for the day. Because if I create a list of all these things that I want to do today, and if I only get 7 of them done, I'm gonna feel bad. I don't want to feel bad. I want to feel good. So instead of worrying about what I didn't accomplish, I write down the things that I did accomplish, because what I found is that if I have a list of 10 things that I need to do today, what happens typically is that different things happen, life happens, and business happens, and I end up accomplishing things that I did not expect to accomplish, and I have wins that I did not expect to have that day. So it's always good to write down your wins, because sometimes when you accomplish something, it becomes way bigger than what you thought it was going to be, and that becomes like the biggest win of the day. There's days where I've gotten maybe one thing out of my list accomplished, but it was so big, it made the entire day a win, right? A lot of times when I recruit somebody, like the meeting goes so much better than I expected that like that one person just made my week. So you have to write down the things that made you win for the day, things that helped you, and never, ever, ever end your day without a win. Figure out a way to make a win, even if it's calling somebody and making somebody else happy, or spreading positivity to somebody. Always end with a win in your day. So that's the time blocking as well. So the dominoes, I like to look at the dominoes as clients. And anybody ever hear the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? Anybody know what that is? Have you heard about that, Shannon? It's like we're all 6 people away from knowing who Kevin Bacon is, right? Or having a connection to Kevin Bacon. It's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek type of thing. But if you really look at it, there's 6 degrees of separation from almost anybody in the world. That's the same thing when they're talking about the dominoes. They're talking about a little domino knocking over a bigger domino, knocking over a bigger domino, knocking over bigger, and going on and so forth. This right here is the client that owns the mobile home. Back when I started, the mobile home was like $98,000. So 98K. That's the first domino. And a commission at $98,000 is not a very big commission. It's a couple $1,000s, maybe. It's not a lot, but we get so fascinated about the people we actually know that we don't realize that the real game is to create an advocate with those people that we know. We create an advocate with this person here, that little domino of $98,000 little mobile home, create an advocate to where he tells that person and that person and that person and that person, and this one owns a $10 million property. That's the bigger domino. So when it comes to the real estate game, your dominoes can be anybody and anything. Everybody on the planet is going to buy, sell, or rent something. Just because someone wants to rent something and they're never going to buy a house from you and they're never going to use you as a real estate agent, that doesn't mean anything, because it's also about who they know. And that's where the lead generation aspects comes into it, is because lead generation as a whole, when it comes to real estate, there's layers to it. The big buzzword is like sphere of influence. And what I've realized is most people do not understand sphere of influence at all. And the way I explain it to you guys is that this is you right here. That's you. Your first layer is basically what everybody talks about, like their family members, their brothers or sisters, their mothers, their fathers, their cousins, their uncles, all those people. That's your family right here. That's family. Now, when I came to California, my family passed away. Like, I had no family. I had like a cousin that lived up north, an uncle that lived up north. I never even thought about them with real estate. But when I got married, like my wife had a bunch of family. So my family exponentially grew. But guess what? They didn't use me. They didn't use me. I had a father-in-law that bought and sold 5 properties without me. No interest in using me. The sister had a really strong relationship with a very powerful agent and was not going to stop using her and use me. So I had no sphere of influence when it came to family. So that is probably the biggest objection I get. Oh, my family won't use me. My family doesn't like me, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's great. Also, I moved to Los Angeles from Las Vegas, so I didn't really know anybody. I didn't know anybody. So your second level is like your board of directors. That's what I call them, board of directors. These are like board of directors. These are like close friends. Close friend. When I say close friends, it's just like there's people that you talk to, there's people you don't talk to. But like if you're gonna go buy a car and you need somebody that's a really big car fanatic, that you know, that's a friend that you may not talk to every day, you talk to them every once in a while, that you're gonna call them and say, hey, John, I'm getting ready to buy a car. What do you think of this car? What do you think of that car? That's the type of person that is your board of directors, the person you would go ask advice to, the person you would talk to, the person you would invite over for a party or invite out for happy hour. Your close friends, your board of directors, that's not your family. Does that make sense? Now that's something that can be developed. You can literally, so what I did, unbeknownst to me, I did this accidentally, is that when I came to LA, I got a job. And so now those people, some of those people became part of my board of directors. And then what I did is when I was in Vegas, I bowled. I was a bowler. We were like on a bowling league and we did really well. And so we got out here and I was like, you know, is there a bowling league? Like, what can we do for fun? Like, so I ended up joining a bowling league. And it's actually not even there anymore. They tore it down and built a Target, I think. But anyway, digress. There was like 12, 13 teams on this bowling league, and each team has like 4 to 6 people. And during this period of time, I ended up getting my real estate license, and I started just talking to people, just accidentally. I wasn't even trying at this point because I was so new in my career, I didn't really know. But I started talking to people, and then, you know, next thing I know, somebody asks me about real estate because I'm talking about being a real estate agent. I ended up selling 6 or 7 houses to people in that group and then connecting with people to people outside of that group. So like the quadratic effect, it's like, this is me and this is my friends, right? Well, they know people I don't know. And I started talking to him, I sold his house, he told me about that guy that I didn't know about, they told me about that guy, they told me about that guy. And it's a quadratic effect that goes out with that one person. That's part of what your board of directors is. This is typically, these two rings are typically where people get their first deals. The next one is your network. So these are like people that you're not necessarily super good friends with, you work with, you know, they're like your best friend's friend, or just people like almost on the outlier aspect of it, that you talk to every now and then, but you just don't hang out with them. Does that make sense? And then this level here is your community. So it could be your neighborhood, it could be like if you go to like clean up the bay and you hang out with all those people, that's, you know, part of your community of things that you have in common. And then out here, I'm gonna start getting really big here. This is your audience. This, I believe, is something new that has not been around forever. Like back before 2000, I don't feel like audience was a thing, but now it's all your social media people that watch you on social media that you don't necessarily talk to. And you post things on social media and you do things on social media and you do things on YouTube and people are watching you. That's your audience. There's things you can do on social media that takes those people and pulls them to you to get closer, to pull these people into your community, into your network, and into your board of directors. And I learned this from Tracy because she has a very strong social media platform to where she'll post things and she'll do different things. Like we've gotten buyers from Instagram. We've gotten buyers from just online presence from when we're posting in just our content and our videos and the things that we do. And we have a whole bunch of people that are just constantly watching us, and then they reach out when they have questions. This is why posting other people's properties, posting your properties, doing videos on your properties, not skimping on photos and doing all that stuff and pushing as much content out there as possible is important, because somebody will see it at some point in time. I always tell people, do not skimp on photos, no matter what the property looks like, no matter where the property is, no matter how much the property is, because you're going to take photos, you're going to do drones, you're going to do all this stuff, you're going to put it on social media, and then you literally have lifetime marketing, because that's never going away. And if you fill it out properly with all the keywords, when somebody searches keywords, you're going to show up in other people's things. If anybody does YouTube, you put a YouTube video out there, if you just let it sit out there, it will slowly accumulate views. Depending on what it is, depending on what it's about, depending on your following, there's a lot. How fast that will happen just depends, but it's out there, it's in the world, it's never being taken down unless you take it down. It's also a bad thing depending on what you're putting on there, but for marketing purposes, it's something that will always be used. The last part is probably the toughest part, and this is the strangers. I put this one here because most people, when they get into real estate, that's where they go. I have agents that have interviewed with me and said, I want to call expireds. I want to do all this stuff. They want to go out and they want to reach out and touch people they don't know. I don't agree with that, because unless you have like this insane work ethic and you have this inside that has this strong fortitude inside of you, to where you can just bowl through a lot of leads and a lot of different things and not get anything back, like that's hard to do. I did that when I first started, and I got what they call luck. I got lucky because my first deal came from somebody I didn't know. But almost every one of my deals came from all these other things that I'm talking to you about. And I wasn't on social media when I first started, because I don't even think it was a thing. Like Shannon, like when you and I started real estate, social media wasn't a thing. It's weird. Like text messaging wasn't a thing. I still remember my first text message. But anyway, it was to an agent that was trying to ghost me. I texted him on his phone. He called me. It's like, what the hell was that? But calling people you don't know and trying to get them to know you, like you, and trust you is probably the hardest thing to do. I don't suggest you start there. I don't suggest you supplement doing all these other things with that. Say, oh, well, I'm going to do this and that. Because this becomes very disheartening over time if you don't get anything. Because what will happen is you're gonna start doing these things that I'm telling you to do, you're going to, it's like, and I just had this conversation today, it's like when you go to the gym and you step on the scale and like no change. You go to the next day, you go to the gym, next day you step on the scale, no change. Like, man, third day is gonna do it. Go to the gym the third day, step on the scale, still no change. You have to do a lot of things in real estate and you're not gonna get a result right away. But in time, with patience, things will happen. Now, starting in the very, very, very beginning, if your people will not use you, your family will not use you, that should not be something that is disheartening. It just is what it is. But they may have a reason. So my father-in-law would not use me because he felt he was a very savvy real estate person because he owned properties. And in the end, he wasn't. He was just somebody that thought he knew more than everybody else. But what you can do with family members is you can create advocates from them to where they may not use you, but they'll tell other people about you. And that's the conversation you have with them. Never expect anybody to use you. You create an expectation by asking people for business and telling them about what you're doing and knowing, excuse my language, knowing your shit. The reason family members won't use you as a real estate agent is because they don't think you know your stuff. You're brand new. How could you possibly know anything? So what you do is you have to educate yourself. You have to know what's going on in the market. You have to read the news. You have to hear what's being told to the general public and then do a little bit of research and do this as part of your routine every day. Every day I look at news sources. I have a handful of news sources that I look at, so I know what's going on at any given time. So nobody can come to me and go, hey, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? Like, did you hear that 93% of all people are not happy with the home they bought in the last few years? Yeah, I heard that. Do you know why? Because I do. And so you have to create those advocates. But the number one thing is that everybody in all of these circles that we're talking about, it's not your job to call them and find out if they want to buy or sell. Are they going to buy or sell? 100%. 100% they're going to buy or sell. How do you get them to use you? Any ideas? How would you get somebody to use you if they've never used you before?
Share our knowledge with them so they know that we know something about real estate.
Okay, maybe. Any other ideas?
Invite to the restaurant.
Invite to the restaurant. Almost like you said restroom. We're about to have a weird conversation. Restaurant, I guess depending on how well you know them, you can invite them out. Okay, both of those are not terrible answers. Any other ideas?
Setting up a random conversation about the market.
Maybe. What if they're not ready?
Showing your honesty and your hard work skills and that you're going to be communicated constantly, then
So that's probably the closest to communicating constantly. So everybody you know is in somebody else's database. There's 1.5 million real estate agents out there. Everybody you know knows another real estate agent. Fair? So how are you going to differentiate yourself, especially if you haven't sold a house? So market knowledge is important to know what's going on in the market, but then frequency and aggressive communication. You probably have to communicate with them more than what you feel comfortable with. And you're going to talk to them and be like, I just talked to them. In your mind, you don't know, like once somebody talks to you and they hang up that phone, do you really think they're thinking about you? Like, man, what's Oswaldo doing right now? Right? A day after you talk to them, are they thinking about you? Probably not. So if you called them in a month, it'd be weird to you because you know you just talked to them a month. A month is probably pretty quick, but in their mind, like a whole 30 days have passed and different things, and they probably weren't thinking about you. So the frequency and aggression of communication is going to have someone use you more than somebody else because the goal is to get them to know you, like you, and trust you. The only way you get people to trust you is if you communicate with them enough to where they know that you know your shit. That's the key. So the thing is that you're not calling people to ask them if they want to buy or sell. Yakov, do you want to buy or sell?
Yes.
You do? What do you want to buy? I got an agent for you. I know somebody.
Agent myself,
Okay. So what are you gonna buy or sell?
house,
Right now? When are you gonna buy or sell? Right now?
later,
Later when?
maybe in a year.
Maybe in a year. Okay. So if I call you tomorrow and I go, Yakov, do you want to buy or sell? What are you gonna say? How many times do I have to do that before you're like, I told you a year, you're going to voicemail? Right? You wanna buy or sell?
I like to buy.
Are you ready to buy right now?
No, everybody's telling me I should wait another 6, 7 months because.
Are you gonna wait 6 or 7 months? Or are you gonna buy right now?
No, I'm gonna wait.
You're gonna wait. Okay, so I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Are you gonna buy or sell? How many times do I have to do that before you send me to voicemail?
I'm gonna tell you that I already told you.
Okay, and I'm gonna call you the third day and ask you if you wanna buy or sell. So the fourth day, when you see my number come up, are you gonna answer it or are you going to send me the voicemail?
Probably I'm not gonna answer.
Shannon, do you wanna buy or sell?
Eventually, when I
When do you wanna buy? 6 months from now. Okay, I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Do you wanna buy or sell? Joseph, I'm gonna call you. Do you wanna buy or sell?
Want to buy?
You wanna buy? You wanna buy right now?
Not right now.
When you wanna buy?
When I have money in my piggy bank,
Okay, so I'm gonna hang up and call you tomorrow. Are you gonna answer my phone?
I'm gonna take that,
That's a no.
no.
Oswaldo, you know what I'm gonna do? My point I'm trying to prove is that you don't wanna call your people and ask them if they wanna buy or sell. Why?
People won't got me.
But why?
Oh, because you're starting the conversation, maybe a little too direct and it's about the exact same topic.
The reason you don't wanna call them to buy or sell, because you don't need them to want to buy or sell. Because
course.
everyone here told me their process. Everybody has their process. You have your process. You said a year. You said 6 months. You said sometime in the future. You said when you had money in the bank. Everybody has a process. So your job is not to find out if they want to buy or sell, because you know everybody's going to buy or sell. Everybody's going to buy or sell. So now that we know that, we all know everybody's going to buy or sell. So you never have to call somebody and say, hey, do you want to buy or sell? Of course they do. If they want to, that's a smart thing, because real estate pays dividends in the long run. If they don't, they probably just don't have enough information yet. But will they? Yes. Or they're going to rent. And there's money in all of that. So your job, and your only job with everybody you know in your life, is to figure out, where are they at in that process? So now that you know they're going to buy or sell, and you know that there's a process, what do? I call them, I go, hey, Oswaldo, how are you?
That's a completely different conversation. Yes, good about yourself.
I'm doing fantastic. How's the family?
They're great. How about yours?
My family is fantastic. Thank you for asking. You know, I know you were doing Uber and you were doing some other work stuff. Like, are you still, how's work going for you?
It's paying the bills, but definitely want to try something else.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'm glad it's working out for you. Like, what, I know you're a hard worker, but what do you do for fun?
I go mountain biking sometimes, or I go to the range and try to play them.
You go to the range?
Yes.
I go to the range. I used to shoot all the time. Oh my God, what do you shoot? What's your favorite gun?
Well, I've got several, but my favorite is my favorite toy is my 308.
Nice, nice. I used to like the Beretta 9mm. That was a service weapon, so I fired it all the time. I like the look of the Glock, but its accuracy was terrible.
Yeah, I use a Glock for service too, and I use a Glock 22, and I usually
Yep.
never had any issues with that, but I had a 6 hour that was issued out to
Yeah.
go for something else, and I love that one better. Both of those 40s, so.
Yep, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then when you're talking to somebody in time, you can ask them different questions. Like, hey, do you, I was curious, I'm in real estate. I was curious, do you rent or do you own?
I rent.
You rent. Okay, that's awesome. Is your goal in life to live in California and LA your entire life, or would you, like, what's the end goal for retirement? Because I know, you and I are up there in age. Like, when you retire, are you planning on staying out here? You planning on, moving someplace that's, more economically friendly?
Yeah, and I grew up here in LA, 25 minutes east of this office on Wilshire, so I'm kind of fed up with the LA life, so I might be moving somewhere else.
Okay, well, would you consider buying a property out here before you move, or would you wanna buy something if you move out of state?
No, I might just buy something out of state.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what did I just do?
you went through family occupation, recreation.
Yeah.
and
So,
treating
so now it's spelled Ford because it spells something and it makes it fun, but you don't have to do it in that order. And if you do this system the right way, you'll realize that once you talk to people, it's the conversations are gonna happen differently. But what I did is that I asked him about his family first. How are things going with you? How are things? And what I'm trying to do is create a connection, and I wanna ask the questions. You wanna ask questions and not tell people things. I was coaching with an agent, and they were trying to get their clients, their friends she was trying to get them to be clients to use them. And she's like, I'm telling them that their house is not worth what they think. I'm telling them this, I'm telling them that. And I stopped them and I said, do you have kids? She's like, yeah. I'm like, how does it work when you tell your kids to do something? And they're like, oh, no, it doesn't work out very well. I go, okay, so would it be better if you maybe ask them a question? Like, how much do you want to sell your house for? I want to sell it for 5 million. Well, you know, it's only 4.5. And they want 5 million. So the next question is, why do you think your house is worth $5 million? You ask questions. That is how you build rapport with people. You ask them questions about themselves, because if you noticed, when I asked Oswaldo, you and I did not coach before I did that conversation with you, right? So the thing is that I asked him, he asked me back, how's your family going? It's called reciprocity. When you start asking enough questions, it comes back to you. They start asking questions about you, right? And then what I did is I found a commonality. He goes to the firing range. Oh, shit. In my mind, my 20-year sales mind, you know what happened? Got him. I got him. Lock this dude. This is my guy now. Because we have something in common. You know, he says, you know, he has a 308. I know exactly what he's talking about. He said, you know, a 6R. I know exactly what he's talking about. Like, him and I could probably sit here and talk guns for a couple hours. I did not know that. But I asked him a question. And so now, once we're connected like that, I can feel comfortable asking him different questions now. Like, hey, you and I are getting up there in age. What's the retirement plan? I'm thinking about retiring. I'm not, by the way, don't anybody freak out. I'm thinking about retiring. Like, you know, I found out he rents. Is he gonna buy here? Is he gonna buy? So now I know that when he decides to retire, he's gonna buy something out of state. So if we're really having this conversation, I'd be like, well, how much have you thought about it? Do you know what state you'd go to? Texas. Texas is big. I love Austin and I love Dallas. No, I'd go to Waco. In my mind, I know exactly where. So what I'm doing, I'm putting all this together, and now this is why referral partners somewhere else are really super important. So if you have this conversation with everybody you know on the planet, it's almost impossible for you not to get business in a very quick fashion. But it's the consistency. And the way the lead generation for me works is 25 contacts a day. Tracy did 100 text message contacts, which I thought was like, I thought she was cheating. Like, you texting, like, what are you cheating? She did 100 contacts in a day and got 6 leads. Shut me up really fast. And all she did was take the Ford conversation and make it super small and easy to text somebody with, and just ask questions to people. Hey, it's Tracy, how are you doing? I just want to touch base to see what's going on. And if there was something that she knew so when you go to your board of directors, your sphere and your board of directors, these are people you already know. So you already kind of know what's going on in their life. Like, I have a friend that's in Texas right now. He's out there. I'm not sure if he's coming back. I text him, hey, how's it going? How's the family in Texas? When are you coming back? All you're doing is to communicate with them enough to make sure they know you're in real estate, that when they get ready to make a decision on when they're going to buy or sell, that they're going to contact you. Because if you're talking to your people enough and they know you're in real estate, it's going to be really awkward for them to go use another real estate agent. Will some people do that? Yes, 100%. I have heard that happen before. It's rare if you're communicating enough. Yes,
What is good to text to strangers?
don't call strangers, call the people you know first. It's hard to text strangers because they're gonna say, who in the F is this? And why are you texting me, right? If you text a woman that you don't know, you tell me what you're gonna say. What are you gonna say?
Okay, is it? good-
Creeper?
Is it okay to call strangers if you have list of people?
What are you gonna say?
Also not good,
Huh?
not good?
What's not good? Well, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm asking you, what would you say to a stranger from some random list that you have?
That I have an agent, I have people who are interested in this area.
I think you're creating something that's way more difficult than you need to deal with because you literally can probably walk around the neighborhood and talk to people. And that's gonna be an easier way than to call random people you don't know. And I know that because I've done it.
Mhm.
So that's what I would say, this is a stranger line.
Right,
You have all of these other lines that you could probably find.
Which. Network.
Board of directors. And I mean, and the thing is she communicates with her family enough that she doesn't have to do that. Like, that's just a normal thing. That's just normal. It's not always normal for everybody to communicate with their family all the time. Like some people, like I don't, right? I have my immediate family with Tracy, but I don't have any family outside of that. So sometimes it's normal, sometimes it's not. For her, it's normal. But she goes to the board of directors and her network and her community. That's where all her business comes from. So it's just having these conversations. So if you're gonna coach with me, I'm gonna sit down with you. I'm gonna say, okay, let's break down who these people are and let's communicate with 25 people a day. And you have to have some form of a real estate conversation. Some form, I don't care what form, you just have to have some form of real estate conversation. If you're talking to 25 people a day, it's gonna be really hard not to get business. And what I tell people is, like, when you're coaching with me and we get to about 200 contacts and you have no possible real estate business happening, I ask you to record yourself so I can hear what you're saying. Let me hear what you're saying. Let me hear what type of conversations you're having. Because chances are you're missing opportunities or you're not responding in a way that's going to give you opportunities. Does that make sense? Anyone that I know that's done this strategy and this technique has gotten business 100% of the time. I had 2 agents that joined us last week that I told them to have this conversation. Within 2 days, they came back with business. And I can guarantee you, if you've been in the business for any length of time, you probably have hundreds, if not thousands of contacts. There's a grip of people in there you probably haven't talked to in months. The next part, the third part, is the most important part. And it's the one where every agent drops the ball 100% every time. And that's the follow-up. So you're gonna talk to them. I'm gonna tell you to call everybody you know. Don't email them, don't text them, don't spam them, don't Facebook them. You call them, you pick up the phone and call them. Even if they don't answer. All right, we're gonna wrap this up, but I'm going to give you my voicemail trick that I use. If I really want to get a hold of somebody, I call them. I don't get them. I wait a minute, and then I call them back. 60% of the time they answer the phone. If they don't answer the second time, I leave them a voicemail. Hey, this is Frank. I'm just calling, I'm touching base with you, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what you say. The fact that you picked up the phone and called them and left them a voicemail is the key. If you just email them and you haven't talked to them in weeks or months or years, that's called spam. They don't care. They know you're a real estate agent. They're probably on your list and they probably figured that and they're going to ignore it. If I call you and I left you a voicemail and you did not talk to me, and then I shoot you an email, and the subject of my email says called you, what's the chance that email is going to get read? Probably pretty good. Or then you text them after you call them. Does anybody get spam text marketing messages? Yeah, that's why you don't text them first. Because you can do that. You text them, hey, called you. left you a voicemail, let me know if you have a few minutes to chat, or whatever. But the power of the first phone call is the key. And having this conversation with 25 people a day,
Not strangers.
not strangers. No. That's called pain. I mean, it depends on, how quickly do you want business? If you're not worried about it, like call anybody you want, doesn't matter. But if you want business, there's people out there right now that are thinking about buying or selling. There's, everybody in here has one deal literally waiting for them right now. Like waiting for them. They don't know it, but once you talk to them and you have enough conversation with them, because the conversation I had with Oswaldo, I asked him how his family was. He said his family was great. It might not be in a week. Something could happen in a week. If I wait 4 months to call him back, is he gonna use me as a real estate agent? How do I know somebody else he isn't in somebody else's database and they're calling him more and they're talking to him more? So you have to call the people you know that are closest to you, and then you do this. This is you. You start making phone calls, and you spiral your way out. And then you go back. And that is what you do. And the thing is you're gonna make calls and nobody is going to buy or sell with you today. Your goal is to figure out where is he in the process. He's gonna retire. So in the notes, he's gonna retire. He's renting right now. He probably won't buy in LA. So when I call him back, I know all that. Your job is to figure out where is everybody at in their process. That is your lead generation. You do that every day, 3 to 4 hours a day consistently. Your business will be on fire. Make sense? Questions? Thoughts? Was any of this helpful? You guys are so quiet.
It is
So-
actually, but we would have had this training yesterday, I would have canceled. I just ordered for $100 worth of leads yesterday. So now I know.
Well, they're leads. They're leads. There's people you can put in your database.
We can add agents referral to the two.
You can add agents referral because this is the thing is that somebody out of state is going to buy or sell and you want to have connection. Out of state referrals to me are probably one of the things that are like the underused. They're underused because there's people leaving the state and coming to the state. And why would you not connect with every real estate agent out there and do the same thing? Connect with them, add 5 contacts to this list. And those 5 contacts are agents out of the area that you want to have referrals with.
There's a system on command that you can do, you write a message, is that-
Yeah, you
And I
get
don't
some
know
of
how-
those.
But I would say call first before you send out any automated messages.
They got some random ones that kind of makes you wonder what is.
Yeah. Well, there's a system and there's just a lot of information. There's a lot of tools. So, all right, I have another coaching thing that I have to do at 12. So I want to knock this out. This is the last video that we're doing.
If the lion is the king of the jungle, how can he be the king of the jungle? If he's not the biggest, the elephant is probably one of the biggest. He can't be the fastest because that's a cheat. He can't be the smartest. So he's not the biggest, the fastest, or the smartest. So how did the lion become the king of the jungle? His mentality. That's the only difference of a lion and an elephant. When a lion walks up and sees an elephant, he thinks lunch. The elephant thinks right. And it's all mentality. Because when a male lion walks up, he may be outnumbered by hyenas, but I'm king of my jungle because of my mentality. What happens when you're gazelle and you're not being pushed? You're not being proud. You're not giving a reward. Nobody's encouraging you. What happens when you're a gazelle and the lion is not chasing anymore? You stop crying. What happens when you're a lion? When you're a lion, it does not make a difference. You realize that if your family is going to eat, that the goal of lion is to survive. You're not going to want to. You want to be the beast, just say eat the gazelle. Part of being a beast is the heart. It's the heart that they're excited about. They like to see the gazelles run. They take off. Because real lions like to hunt. They love the process just as much as they love the prize. And some of y'all just want to score. You don't like the process. You gotta love with the process. A true hunter's goal is not the money. A true hunter's goal is to hunt. That's what they live for. They live to hunt. They don't just live to catch it. It's the whole process. When you are a true hunter, you don't go by time. You go by the gazelle. When you are a true hunter, you hunt until you get a gazelle, and you don't stop until you get one. And then you get another, and then you get another, and you get another. You gonna do what you say you're gonna do. Do what you say you're gonna be. You gonna have to line me out. You gonna fail. You gonna come up short. You gonna get back. You gonna have a huge experience. You a student, I need you in lion mode. You an entrepreneur, I need you in lion mode. You trying to lose weight, lion mode. You can't do nothing significant in gazelle mode. Nothing. Nothing impressive happened in gazelle mode. Nothing happened in run mode, give up mode, quit mode, scared mode, fearful mode. Nothing happened. Everything happened in lion mode, like I'm coming to get you.
Lion mode. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
No, they-
Okay.